Hey, welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and in this episode we're kicking off a brand new review series for a new line of statues courtesy of Diamond Select. Now, longtime fans of this channel know that we love to rave about the Diamond Select X-Men the Animated Series resin busts, and guess what? Diamond didn't just stop at X-Men with the animated stuff from Marvel Comics. No, today we are looking at their next entry and their newest series in their animated series lineup, and that would be Spider-Man, the animated series. And hey, we're kicking things off with none other than the webhead himself, Spider-Man. Now, me being a 90s kid, I grew up with the X-Men animated series, and of course I also grew up with Spider-Man, the animated series. Now, did I have a preference between the two? Yes I did, but I think we're gonna save that for another video. We'll go over my biases on another day, but regardless, I did watch Spider-Man the animated series quite a lot, quite religiously. I had a lot of the action figures from it because they had some really cool toys, of course. So yeah, it's about time that we've gotten a collectible to kind of memorialize or remember Spider-Man the animated series in a way that it's meant to be, and not just with those classic 90s action figures or even the Marvel Legends done in that style of them. No, I think it's about time we had a piece that actually really harkens back to the way the animated series actually looked. And that's what Diamond Select's trying to accomplish here today, so we're gonna find out if they actually have done this or if this is a total flop. So, real quick, let's talk about this packaging here. And the box is basically what we've seen in the past for any other Diamond Select animated series busts, or really any resin pieces that they do in general. It's very much the same kind of style here. In this case, we have the Spider-Man animated series logo on the top, along with a photo of the Spider-Man statue. If we turn this box to one side, we get a picture, literally a picture, it's an illustration of Spider-Man with, again, that animated series logo. And if we turn it to the other side, we get, surprise, surprise, the exact same thing. Okay. Well, at least we know it's Spider-Man, right? But if we go ahead and turn to the back of the box, we get to see, well, really not too much more interesting, actually. You know, again, with the resin pieces, they normally don't put any bios or any other background information about the characters, so it's really pretty plain. We just get to see, again, another image of the statue. The description lets us know that this is a limited edition piece of only 3,000 statues, but most importantly, it lets us know who the art team was behind this piece. And this particular Spidey was designed by Barry Bradfield and sculpted by Paul Harding. So that's pretty much all I need to say about the packaging, because really, what else can you say about it? So at this point, I think it's time to go ahead, bust this guy out of here, and take a better look at Spider-Man from all angles. And here is our Spider-Man bust now out of the packaging. Let's go ahead and do a quick rotation, and while we do that, I'm gonna explain to you guys just why that packaging was so vertical. And the reason being is because what you're seeing now with Spidey, well, he wasn't packaged this way. He wasn't packaged horizontally. He was actually packaged, kind of turned, if you will, to, I guess, 90 degrees right now from where he is, so that the web shooter is basically pointing up, and his elbow, his left elbow there, or his other left elbow, whatever, his elbow that's bent, we'll say, keep it easier, that was pointing towards the bottom of the packaging. So I guess, again, the reason for doing that was most likely to keep that webbing completely safe from it having to break off, because if that broke off in packaging, yeah, the statue's pretty much ruined. So there's your answers for why it's so tall. Did it need to be that way? Well, I guess so, because really otherwise that webbing probably would have snapped off. So now that Spider-Man is done doing a first rotation, let's go ahead and since we got him right here, let's talk about this likeness. Let's just talk about the look in general of the piece, because that's something I'm kind of interested in, since, you know, these are the animated series pieces, and the question kind of is, do these look like the animated series pieces? And the answer is, well, a definite yes from me, because this right there, that is the Spider-Man I remember seeing in those animated series. I mean, everything about this piece is just screaming to me cartoon. It totally looks like it. You know, we've got, of course, the face, the expression. Well, what expression? But yeah, again, basically that face is the exact face I remember from the cartoon. And I remember it kind of being these exact same very bright colors too. Like, these are such oversaturated colors. These really, really bright reds, these popping blues that are coming at you. And, you know, another thing I always remember kind of from the cartoon, and one of the reasons, my bias is about to show, why I actually kind of preferred the X-Men over the Spider-Man show, is kind of because, as I turn him back to the front, you'll see, I always felt like the way they did him in the show, they really made him very flat. And that's not really necessarily the cartoon's fault. Well, I guess you can kind of blame it on the cartoon, but it's also kind of just the fault of the design of Spider-Man, and that's not really knocking Steve Ditko here whatsoever. It's more just the fact that, you know, black lines tend to flatten things out. It's just a thing in art. So yeah, the fact that the Spider-Man has so many black lines running all across his outfit, it tends to flatten him out a little bit. You know, you don't quite necessarily see all the dimensions that you should be seeing. Even in this review, I feel like he's looking sometimes a little bit flat, but luckily, you know, the way these lines here are composed, it helps to round out his body, round out his muscles, so that he does have some depth to him. And I gotta admit to you guys, that was one of the things I was worried about was, well, with a character like Spidey, I mean, what's gonna happen? Especially when there's one that's gonna be as, pop arty as this. Is he gonna look kind of flat in statue form? And the answer is maybe a little bit, but not enough for me to be like, nah, don't buy this piece. Like this to me, it's still very strong so far. And it totally looks like that Spidey from the cartoon. It very much has that exact same feeling of it. And on that note too, outfit very much identical as well. I mean, this is that Spidey logo that he had in the cartoon. We've got the very thick black webbing, as I mentioned, which by the way, it's not actually painted in. That's also a part of it. Like, yes, it's painted, but these lines are slightly sculpted in there. So there's a little bit of extra depth to have some more shadows touch those and give it a little bit more dimension. So I think that's a pretty big important thing to note here while talking about this piece. Now let's also talk about this webbing that's coming out of his hand a little bit here. Let's see if we can find, this is probably the best view of it. Yeah, let's do that right here. So let's talk about this webbing, shall we? I was curious how they're gonna do this webbing, and it's pretty cool actually, because you can see we've got the little web shooter right there sticking out of the costume. And I was wondering if this was gonna be like maybe a transparent piece of plastic or something, but no, they actually just went with solid piece of resin, thin piece of resin, but it is solid nonetheless. And just again, keeping some of those outlines around it, a simple black paint job. So that's how you're gonna get your webbing look. And yeah, it looks pretty good. It's kind of an odd thing to do, but that's how you gotta do it, I'm glad they did it that way. And let's take a look too at his other arm. So his other arm here does not actually have a web shooter. So that's what I just checked for. No web shooter on that one. So, surprise, surprise. Yeah, they left that one out. So let's talk about also some of the design parts, which I kind of feel like I have to flip them upside down a little bit just so you can see it better. But yeah, you can see there's like some shadow there. That is part of the painted look of him. You can see it under his lats as well and on that bent arm. So that's part of the whole kind of early cell shade look, if you will, of those cartoons. It wasn't cell shade, I guess, back then. Maybe it was called that. I don't quite know, but Spidey had a pretty unique look. I mean, it was similar to X-Men, but very much brighter and a lot less darks than the X-Men, because the X-Men series relied on a lot more black colors and black tones, kind of like Batman the animated series in a lot of ways. Spidey was the opposite. Spidey was colorful, Spidey was bright, and that's what you're getting here. So you're not gonna have, as like, even in the back you can see, not really as dramatic a shadow as you would get with some of those X-Men animated series busts. But hey, that completely works for the character and that works for how the show looked. So that is the aesthetic. They nailed that. So perfect execution on that look. And by the way, let's talk about this base real quick, but I also want to just kind of lift him up for a second, just to show you guys what's on the bottom of this piece here. And that is his limited edition number right there. So you guys can see my number, that's cool. But that's what you're getting. And yeah, the bottom of the base also does have these nice little rubber stoppers there, so he won't scratch up any glass or other surfaces that you put him on. But yeah, let's talk about this base real quick. So this is gonna be what I assume is the base for all these Spider-Man statues. And it's kind of like really similar to kind of all the other pieces they've done for all these types of busts, just with their own little kind of special design to it. And in this case, it's kind of Art Deco in a way, which is very New York. This is, as opposed to the X-Men, that was more like meant to be kind of almost a Danger Room kind of look perhaps. In this case around, like the way the structures are, the way the angles are in here, and even like, hopefully you guys can see it, there's kind of like some bridge looking shapes also almost in there, like suspension bridge going on in there. That is very much an Art Deco kind of look. So they're keeping in mind where Spidey's from, which is of course New York City, and they're putting that into this piece. So job well done, very nice base, very simple, very elegant also, totally gets the job done. So final thoughts on this Spider-Man limited edition resin bust from Diamond Select. I am a fan so far. You guys have definitely got me going here. My wallet is open for these statues too. I am already getting those X-Men pieces, and I'm a little afraid to start cluttering my shelves with too many animated series busts, if you will, but it's gonna be inevitable, because let's also keep in mind, beyond this, they're also gonna be doing the Gargoyles pieces, which are coming out very, very soon also. I think they're gonna do some busts in this style too. There's definitely a lot of pieces coming out in this shape and form of these animated series busts. And I'm all for it. I'm gonna need to make a lot more space for it somehow. Don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna have to find a way, because these things are really, really cool, you guys. And if you've been on the fence about them, really nothing to worry about here. I mean, these are all solid pieces. And I mean that not only in terms of just the look and the design, but also just the statue itself. I mean, I would be a little bit worried about the fragility of that webbing, as we're seeing now pass by in the camera here. But, he's a pretty solid piece weight-wise, so I don't think he's gonna go anywhere unless you purposely knocked him down, or a cat was like, hey, I hate you, Spider-Man, and meowed it off his shelf. So, as far as sturdybility goes, that's not a word, is it? Well, as far as sturdiness goes, but sturdybility should be a word. I think this is pretty much nailed it on all fronts. So with that said, if you guys want to pick up this Spider-Man the Animated Series bust for yourselves, I'm going to have links to it from Amazon.com in the description below, so make sure to click that affiliate link because that link helps me and costs you guys nothing extra to use it. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. That's our look at, once again, the Spider-Man animated series Bust, the first piece in the series. And oh man, you guys, it's going to be a pretty exciting series because I know we got some villains coming up very soon also, and you know there's going to be some good ones with that. So stay tuned for more statues coming very soon. We'll see you guys here next time.